Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is 86A, so that's Subaru Outback. I believe it's 2008 or 9, maybe LLB, which misfires. Standard problem, IC 608. Oh, what's happening here? It's stuck. Oh, there you go. Probably hasn't been removed ever. Interesting. IC 608 with soldering. Nothing you haven't seen before. So let's take this opportunity and talk about the data security, or stealing your data and how valuable your data is, and especially those companies that there's plenty of them now, or services that offer the data removal. Right? Especially on YouTube, as like almost every content creator that I watch advertises one of these services, and there's plenty of them now because it's a pretty good business model, right? You pay some monthly fee, and they do something. You don't really know what. You don't know how, and you get the reports that we reached out to this company and that company, and we did our due diligence. Now, is it worth the money? Well, I work for a legitimate company that legitimately uses your data, like your email address, your physical address. If you're receiving something, right, you're ordering something, then obviously we need your shipping address, email, of course, name, usually name, sometimes phone number as well, but yeah, some payment gateways require phone number for whatever reason. So in some cases, we have to get your phone number, not for our records, but for the payment gateway. And we store it in the record of your purchase, right? On the order, we store that information. And from time to time, someone reaches out to us with a request to remove that data. And then what we do, we just, we don't actually remove the record because there's a, foreign key relation, so you can't really remove that. But we clear all the personal information. So your email, your physical address, or what have you, is removed from the record. And that's pretty much what those companies do. They reach out on your behalf and request data removal. Now, why do you need that service? Well, I don't think you do. I don't think you need that service. And the reason is simple. Why you think you need it is you get spam calls, you're on the lists of, scammers, the lists that are being sold to scammers. So your data is being sold as lead data, right? And you get phone calls, spam emails, and all that kind of stuff. So that, at least when you're hiring the company to do that, that is your expectation, that your data will be removed from all those lists that are being sold to scammers. And now if you measure the performance or how effective that service is, you get the measurements from legitimate companies like the one I work for. Because if you reach out with the request, we actually remove your data, and we don't need your data for anything other than, fulfillment of the orders that you submit. Right? We don't sell this data. That's not our business. That's not how we make money. So this is what you will see when you get the report of results. This is what we did. Yeah, we reached out to blackhorserepairs and we requested the data to be removed, and blackhorserepairs deleted that data. Right? We promise. So that's your result. That's the results of our service. Now, I don't think I have to tell you that if your business model revolves around spam calls, right, scamming people, then, if you reach out to such company, no, they're not going to remove your data. I mean, they will remove your data. But right after they move that data to a separate entity. Because until I receive the request, but I don't want to delete your data, so I just hold that request, then I back up the data, I just transfer it to someone else, right? Sell it or whatever. Then I remove your data, but I still have your data as a separate entity, right? And I could be 20 entities, and you would have to reach out to all 20 to have that data removed. But if you do, then you can do it at the same time. And even if you do, no problem. You reached out to entity number 17, or you reached out to all 20 entities, and I move your data from entity 20 to entity 10. I remove your data from all entities except 10. Then I move from 10 to 20. Then I remove it from entity 10. That way, I just bounced around your data, and theoretically, I did my due diligence. I deleted your data. But obviously, I didn't delete your data. I kept it because I'm a scammer, and that's my business. That's what I do. I steal from people. So what do you think? My morals are, allow me to steal your money, but when you reach out to me and tell me that I gotta delete your email, suddenly my morals go up and I delete your data? No, of course not. So those services just give you this illusion of security, and they give you extensive reports and stuff, so it looks legitimate. And I'm not saying they're not legitimate. They do what they say they will do. They will search for your data and try to remove it from all this stuff, but they know they can't do it. they know just as well. That's why everything is kind of implied. They don't give you any guarantees. Like in the next month, your number of your spam calls is going to be reduced by this percentage. They don't do that. They don't guarantee anything because they can't. It's not within their power. The only thing within their power is to, on your behalf, reach out to the place that stores your data, right? So we can fairly establish that those services are pretty much waste of money, and your data, once it got on the internet, it's gonna stay on the internet, right? There's nothing you can do with that. So how valuable that data is, and what is it being used for, and how has it been acquired? Because if you really want to have your data really private, hold your data really privately. You don't want anyone else to have that data. There are things that you can do to kind of minimize that risk. But again, it's not like you can escape that completely. I mean, you can live under a rock, and maybe your data will be safe, but it just takes one little service, one little purchase, and your data is compromised. By compromised, I mean it's there. What is it for? Well, the data is primarily used for targeted advertising, right? Not every data that is stolen from you is being sold to Indian scammers or Nigerian scammers, right? It's not always like that. Sure, it happens, but primarily it is being used just for targeted advertising. It's not exactly the personal data, because there are a few types of data that are classified as sensitive information, personal information. So not every information is sensitive, not every information is personal. But your real name, your physical address and all that, that's the information that, well, it's a personal information. Sensitive information, there's certain rules, and I know as a security supervisor I probably should know that by heart, but I don't. I just remember learning that just to pass the exam, and as quickly as it entered my head, it left my head, because it's not an information that I necessarily need on the daily basis. So data like your social security number or your medical information, that kind of stuff, that's the sensitive information, that's the sensitive data. That's in a whole different bucket, right? I never had any experience with stealing that kind of data. And I did work at some point, I worked for a company that was supplying software to the hospitals, like 200 hospitals. So I had access to that data, and because I was working in integrations, so that data was flowing from each hospital to the central system, and then processed to the target system, right? Be it the results of your exam, results of your CT scan or MRI or X-ray, that kind of stuff, right? Because it's being done somewhere else and it needs to be delivered to the doctor. So that information has to flow, but that required us to use specific protocols, and in this case, what was it called? HL7 or 8? Yeah, something like that. It's a pretty weird protocol. It reminds me of in WordPress how you encode the strings in a database. You just kind of have this header that tells you what is the size of the string, and that's how the data is stored. Like well, not very user friendly or developer friendly method, because every time you wanna, or you can't freely just enter something, change the length of the string or stuff like that. So I was not too keen on using that, but that was the requirement. Anyways, the data that I used to steal was basically your email, your name, your address perhaps, if you enter it, and whatever else there is in the form. And you can test that yourself You know, when you land on some kind of obscure landing page for some supplements or, you know, that kind of stuff, basically stuff that you don't really need and stuff that probably doesn't work anyway. You can test it for yourself. Go to that website and start filling out your address. Open your network tab to see the traffic and start entering your data. And you will notice that every time you leave the one field where you entered your email address, you leave one field, go to the next field, and pick there was the request already going back to the backend. Right? So you already have your email. Before you didn't think, like, if you fill out the entire form, you think that, you know, I didn't hit the submit button, so they don't have that data yet. No, we already have that data. We already have it, just in case you change your mind before hitting the submit button. Just for that reason. We used to call them sneakers because it's kind of a sneaky way of getting your data. And initially I didn't really understand it because, you know, in this business it's a very scammy business, right? There's a lot of people, you know, stealing that data. Not stealing that data from you, stealing that data from people that stole it from you. Because these are leads, very valuable. Especially when you have leads of vulnerable people, and that was primarily the data we had, because sometimes you had an age of the person, and all of that was usually 60 and above, or 50 some and above, right? And that was quite a few years ago, not super, you know, not super recently and not super old story either. 2017 maybe. I was much younger, obviously, and I was hired as a lead on the project. And one thing that struck me as odd when I started processing leads was, like, why do I have so many duplicates, right? And the reason is because of the sneakers. We want to kind of grab your data as soon as you as soon as the cursor leaves the field, the email field. You enter the email, so we already sent that, so you're already a lead, right? And now to stitch all that data together, as you entered the form, that form generated an unique ID. And all the data that is obtained through sneakers is going to be attached to that unique number, right? Because at this point we might not have enough data to identify you in any way, but we need to know that that data belongs to this form. And then hopefully it is properly stitched together, and we have ourselves a lead. So we're gonna bombard you with stuff, supplements and stuff, basically. Usually, you know, stuff that doesn't work. You can be sure. If we sell it, I mean that company I worked for before, which I didn't know that this was the core business, because again, I was hired, you know, basically primarily to tackle this problem of acquiring, processing, deduplicating leads and transferring it from one bucket to another bucket. That's it. That was my job. But that was the times where Apache Kafka was in its infancy. Well, when was Kafka developed? I think LinkedIn developed or started the Kafka. I don't remember. It's been a while since I used it. I mean, I still technically use it right now, but I'm unaware of that. I'm agnostic. I just know I submit something to the endpoint, and I know it goes to the Kafka topic, and it goes to the external service. Then the external service dispatches another message to the topic, and that comes back to me. But from my perspective, it's request response. Just after I submit the request, for a response to come back to me, Kafka needs to process twice two messages, right? My request and then response from the external service. But my point is that I didn't know it back then, why it was so duplicated, and then I found out that that's how the data is in fact acquired. So there's a lot of duplicates. So now you have to stitch all that data together, right? You don't want, if you have one John Doe, you don't want to have 20 entries for that. And you do have 20 entries, because every time you put any piece of information in the form, it is already submitted. So that was kind of challenging. And in my defense, because you might say that that was a despicable job, and it was, but first, I didn't really know. Second, I just needed the job. I didn't really think of morality of it. Now I do, but now I'm in my 40s. Back then, I was in my early 30s. The late 20s, early 30s. In most cases, the engineers will not even know that they're working on stuff like that. We don't know we're stealing from you, you know? And it's set up that way on purpose. Okay, this tip is done, but we'll see. I'll keep it still for a while and we'll see. There. New tip. Awesome stuff. Anyways, how valuable that data is to you. Or let's look at it this way, because people for those companies to sell you the product, and I'm talking about the product of removing your data from the internet. For them to sell you that product, they must convince you that first, your data is being stolen. Second, that data is valuable and is going to be used for malicious purposes. Whoa. And you're going to suffer because of that. So these are the things that you need to be convinced about, convinced of, to be sufficiently scared to even inquire into acquiring their services. This final piece to the puzzle is you need to be somehow convinced that what they do actually works, they actually do it, right? So there's few pieces to this puzzle, and that's why you get those reports from them. There's no way for you to verify that, and it's not like they give you because when you so the strategy that they use is very simple. You just give them your email, and they give you all the information that they dug about you, right? And then you see that, oh, they have my phone number, my physical address, all that. So yeah, you're sufficiently scared, but they don't give you any clause saying that, okay, Google your name right now and see the data, and then Google your name again in a 1 month time, and you'll see that your data is no longer there. No, they don't do that. Of course not, because they can't guarantee anything like that, because they know they can't deliver anything like that. They also don't give you any guarantees regarding the amount or the number of the spam calls that you will receive. Alright? Because again, they can't deliver on that. It's kind of the same thing when the VPNs exploded in popularity, and because they started advertising themselves as a security measure, which it is not even close. It has nothing to do with security. Your data is not secure because you're using VPN. If anything, it's even less secure. But what data? What data, and why do I need to keep it a secret? Primarily, that data is basically your interests, your preferences, what you spend money on, what's your age, demographic, location, occupation. Based on that, we can deliver more targeted advertising. And this is something that personally I take advantage of. Like, recently I was making a Google search that normally I would never do, and that was about finding a job in HR with no experience and nothing like that. So now, obviously it wasn't for myself. I wouldn't want to work in HR, and not even I wouldn't want to. It's not something I can do. But I was fully aware that now I'm gonna be receiving stuff that is related to that, like job offers or courses or stuff like that. And I take advantage of that. If the algorithm knows that about me, that can be beneficial to me. I will be getting, if you search for stocks or that kind of stuff, maybe you're into stocks. If the algorithm knows that, and I'm using the phrase algorithm here very loosely, because lately that the meaning of the word algorithm has slightly shifted, slightly changed, and now it seems like recently I heard someone described as a programmer coding algorithms. And I found that really funny, because that kind of feels like the author that's said that phrase doesn't understand what the algorithm is in general, or what the meaning of the word algorithm is. Oh, so shifted. But that's besides the point. We'll talk about it next time. But if the algorithm now knows what I'm interested in and say it's stocks, then I receive ads that sometimes they might be something I was looking for. The same with when you look for something on Amazon. You get related items, like other people also purchased that, or you get from eBay when you show interest in some, spend few minutes on some listing. eBay is gonna start sending you the emails, like push emails. Are you still interested? Or this item that you were looking at last week is now listed again, or for much better price, or that other person has this item and now it's much better price, right? That is definitely something that you can take advantage of, just because the algorithm knows about your interest, knows that you're interested in buying this stuff. So the way I take advantage of that, when I'm interested in something that is expensive enough that I don't want to spend, I don't have that money just laying around, and I have to think 5 times before I spend that much money. So like anything, say above $200. So what I do, I just search through a lot of listings on eBay, and then I receive emails, and sometimes it is, hey, this one is 60% off now, or sale from this seller, or stuff like that. It's very useful, right? So I don't complain about people stealing my data, because they're not actually stealing my data. Your name, your address, that kind of stuff, okay, that would be stealing your data. But learning about your preferences for the purpose of targeted advertising, that's not exactly stealing your data. I know a lot of people have problem with that, and I fully respect that. And if you wanna, if you don't want to share that data with advertisers, that is perfectly fine with me, and you should have the ability to do so. You should have the ability to not share that data, but you don't. I mean, you have the ability to not use certain, certain services. Like, don't use Facebook, don't use Google, don't use what was it? Don't order from AliExpress, that kind of stuff, right? Or just don't use internet in general at all, right? That way, no one's gonna steal your data. Or by data, again, I mean your preferences and your interests, and perhaps your occupation, and perhaps your location. But that data is never actually personal enough that you would have to worry about it, right? Well, say Facebook has your name, your family, your pictures, all of that, but when they don't share that data with advertisers, you're just within the group of people with certain interests. And if the advertiser wants to say, I want to run the ads for blackhorserepairs, right? Perhaps for this particular repair. Obviously, when I'm paying for those ads, I want them to be targeted to people that are at least somewhat interested in automotive repairs, or automotive industry, DIYers. Because remember, you have to dig the ECM out of the car. It's not maybe not very complex, but if you're like completely a-technical, you can't do anything technically, you don't know how to hold a screwdriver or a wrench, then, I don't want to advertise to you, right? I don't care who you are. I don't care about your data. I don't want your data. I just want my ad to be presented to people that are potentially interested in my services, right? So it's not like either Facebook or Google or anyone just takes your data and then just sells it so someone can, steal your credit card or something like that. So having that in mind, it's not that scary if you have that in mind, if you keep that in mind. That I don't actually want your data. No one wants your data. You are the data. We want you, not your data, because your data is useless to us. You are valuable if we know what group do you belong to. Because at the end of the day, when I pay for advertisement and say I spent $10,000 on a campaign that presented my ad to say 10 million people or 100 million people, right? And then what I want to see spike in sales, right? And those sales gotta bring me those what did I say, $10,000? I gotta make that $10,000 back and then some, because if I only made $10,000, that's not good enough. Right? Oh, come on. A little more? Or can we get away with this? So, are those services that remove your data a scam? Again, they have their business and advertisers have their business, right? So they have their priorities, or advertisers have their priorities and their models and stuff, and the companies that are there to take your money for supposedly removing your data and making you more secure or giving you the illusion of security, they have their own model and their own target audience and stuff, right? So they need to sufficiently scare you. They need to convince you that it's a problem, and they need to convince you that their service will help you. Which is tough when you literally cannot give any guarantees. You can't guarantee any effects, right? They only guarantee that they will do what they say they will do. And on top of that, they're promising that they will not be the ones that steal your data. Bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, your data is not that valuable, and you shouldn't care that much about the data being sold to advertisers. And if anything, if you can't win with them, well, learn to live with them and actually take advantage of the situation, right? As I said, I feel like I take advantage, and I get a lot of value from not caring about my data, if that makes sense. 7:10, Thursday. It's one of those Thursdays where we do the security meeting, the monthly review and stuff and planning and stuff like that. That's why my alarm went off, but I still have plenty of time, and I already did everything I had to do to get ready for that. It's been pretty busy lately, which I always appreciate. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, your data's not that valuable, not that private. Your medical information, your financial information, that kind of stuff, that's valuable. Recently, when I think I already told you guys about that, but when I was setting up Stripe for payments and stuff, to do the deposits by default, they just want my they want my username and password for the bank that I use, and all that just so they can get my account number and routing number. Of course I said no thank you, and I put my account number and routing number manually. But that is a hidden option, almost almost a hidden option, because it took me a little while to even find it. There's a small box which you can click to take you to the form where you put your data manually, your banking information manually. And the reason for that, because they prefer to get your username and password to the bank, not to steal your money, just to know more about you. How much money do you have? What do you spend your money on? That is something that I don't feel comfortable sharing, right? But whether I search for, Subaru Outback alternator or, something like that, and then I receive ads and stuff related to that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if anything, I might find better deals, better offers, so that is what I mean by taking advantage of the situation. I definitely would not recommend personally getting those services. I'm not sure what prices they actually get, what prices they offer. But even if it's $5 a month, well, maybe if it was $5 a month, maybe I would think about it. But I'm pretty sure it's closer to at least $30 a month. And I don't want to name drop any particular one, because it really doesn't matter which one. They all work the same. Oh, what happened here? Why did it turn out so ugly? And there's one pin completely unsoldered. The top looks good, and see the top here, this is the hardest one, this one. And this one turned out great, and here not so much. This one's important, cylinder number 5, so we need to definitely fix this one. Actually, maybe let's just do this. Let's use the big scope. Let's focus so you guys can see something as well. Yes, gentlemen. The world is not as scary as the companies want you to think it is. Okay, so that's good, and this one. Oh, and maybe final point. Before you crucify me for stealing your data, or before you start blaming software engineers for all this, just be aware that majority of times we're just plainly not aware what we're working on or repercussions of it. And even if we collect your data legitimately, we don't know what it's going to be used for, and in many cases we just don't care. Not because we don't care about your data. We don't care because, you know, we have our families that we have to support, and kids we have to feed and send to school. We just want to do our work, go home and live our lives. So don't blame us. Second reason is that sometimes we don't question the morality, mainly because we're young and we think of everything as a problem to solve, right? How to secretly, how to secretly say steal your data, but it's phrased differently, not as bluntly steal your data, but how do we perform this task without the user knowing, or something like that. To us, that's more like a challenge. Even in a sanitized context, where we don't talk about users or whatever, an actual personal data or anything, it can be in a completely sanitized context that we are not even aware what it's going to be used for, right? In which case, we just plainly think of it as a technical problem to solve. Nothing more than that. We're not bad people. We don't want to do evil. And in some cases we don't know we do evil. In other cases, it's not our job to question it. So don't think too little of us. We are also just humans, and we're just as much a victim of this as you are. Being a software engineer or knowing how it works doesn't really give you an edge. Doesn't guarantee that you're immune to it, to data leakage, because you know how it works, because you know, your data is just compromised just the same way. The only edge that it gives you is that sometimes it just looks like it has been designed just to collect leads, because those leads usually are sold to someone, and at the time of collecting the data, it's not determined who is it gonna be sold to. So if my data is collected and I'm a repair shop, right, then my lead, so my data, me as a lead, will be sold to the company that sells electronic parts, that sells tools, soldering irons, microscopes, you know, that kind of stuff. Is it really that bad? I'm just gonna be flooded with offers of, you know, equipment or something like that. Well, in my case, actually, you know, in my case, that is a good thing, because what companies do, we advertise, right? So we want our data to be there in case you need a repair, and if you have some cheap tools or some innovative tools or something new on the market, then yeah, definitely reach out to me and let's see. It's not like you violating my privacy because you called a number that I give to everybody, right? But if it's my personal number, yeah, that could become a little annoying. But every phone comes with a feature that is commonly referred to as an off switch. You're probably not familiar if you were not born, you know, if you're not 40 or above. You're probably not aware that phone has that feature because you probably never turned it off. And honestly, I don't remember last time I turned off my phone. But instead of turning it off, you can just put it in the airplane mode. Same thing. Right? No one will call you, you won't call anyone. So, it's not that bad. You know the saying that if there's a gold rush, you don't dig for gold, you sell shovels. So the VPN and those data removal companies are selling you shovels. They don't use their own services. Just like they don't dig for gold, they just selling you the shovel. And you go dig. And then we're gonna sell you a nice truck so you can load all your gold. Oh, you didn't find it in gold? No worries, we'll give you a good deal on the truck. You don't need a truck? Oh, come on, at this price, everybody needs a truck. So, the only possible benefit from knowing all this is that you can spot like obvious manipulation, basically. Recently, in the context of that HR search, right? I was watching a video that was describing, how to get your feet wet, how to get started in HR, and like an overview and stuff like that. All right. And after like literally 30 seconds of watching the video, I said to my wife, that lady is selling a course. I guarantee she's selling a course, and at the end of the video she's gonna give you a link to that course. I was spot on. But that seemed obvious because she followed there's this few ways you make the advertisement of your product or whatever. There's like a certain script you follow, certain, I don't remember what it's called, but it's something with leather, I think, like open leather or something like that. And you just follow that script, and it's very effective. That's why people use it. But since I'm familiar with it, I knew immediately that this particular video is not gonna give me any substantial information. It's just gonna give me enough taste of the information, so I clicked the link and purchased the course. And I'm pretty sure that the course is not much more valuable either. I would guess so. Basically, no matter what course people are selling, the information that you have in the course is definitely available for free, but you have to spend time to find it, to look for it, and to collect it. So the only value of the courses is that you get more consolidated information, just kind of aggregated in some easily digestible form. That's the only value of those courses. Any courses, you name it, all of them, every single one. And there are no courses that have secret information not available for free. They just don't exist. And as soon as one actually exists, well, it exists for the first 10 people that buy it, and then the information is available for free, because information is power, information is valuable. Sharing information can be very lucrative. Not selling information. I mean, that can be even more lucrative, but then you have to convince your client, convince your customer that the information that they will receive, they will get their money worth, and and then some. But that never happens. That's just not true. Not true at all. So, in conclusion, if you wanna use those data removal services, give it a try. If it's not too expensive, you can afford it, give it a try for a month or two and see what the actual results are. Not the reports they send you and convincing you that it was removed from here, from there, from there, but what does it mean to you? Like, was that data actually removed, and or it doesn't matter whether it was removed or not, but did you notice less or fewer spam calls, fewer spam emails, or something like that? And the advertisement is that actually, there's a script that the YouTubers use to advertise those companies, and the script goes something like you can reach the companies collect data, and they have to delete it upon request, but they make it super difficult to do. They don't. They don't make it difficult to do. All you have to do is just write an email to whoever, to the company, and they are legally obligated to remove that data. Nothing more to it. They don't make it hard to do. They just don't do it. If I have to remove it, as I said, if I have to remove it from entity 1, then I'll just transfer it to entity 2 through 20, just so your data is propagated. And good luck reaching out to every 20 at the same time. And even if you do, good luck actually having that deleted. If your goal is to remove your data from scammers, and you want to rely on them obeying the law, and just be mindful that this law is in your country, maybe a few other countries, but not across the world. And even if it is, how are you going to enforce it? What, you're going to call the police because the guy in Nigeria has my personal information? What are they going to do? So no, it's a waste of money in my view. VPN and data removal services, waste of money. And actually, if you don't believe me, just reach out. Just think of the last company that you did any business with, meaning, you purchased something. Maybe tickets to a concert, right? You must have used some ticketing company that actually processed your order. You reach out to them and you ask them, can you delete my data? You just get an email, yes, your data will be removed, because we can't, after we delete your data, we can no longer email you, right? So if they email you with the email saying that data has been deleted, well, then how do you have my email, right? Because apparently it's still in the inbox. My email is still in the inbox, and and if you request the data removal, they have to remove it across everything, right? Even correspondence with you. So the correspondence might be saved, but it needs to be anonymized. It can no longer be tied to your name or your email or your address or anything like that. So yeah, do that experiment, reach out to the company and see how easy it is. They don't give you problems, because that's not their business to steal your data. And they need to obey the law, which is that they need to remove the data. Basically, the bottom line is, don't get scammed by the scammers or people that protect you from the scammers. Or that tell you that they're protecting you from the scammers without actually giving you any real measurable results. They don't guarantee anything other than trying to do their job as best as they can. Keep that in mind. Anyways, this is the repair. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope this wasn't too depressing subject. But I think if you just look at it optimistically, your data is not that valuable. You shouldn't worry that much about your data. No worries. There's some data you should worry about, but not all of your data. And some is not even your data. These are just your preferences, or the information that you freely share with your friends and even strangers. It's nothing, where do you work? What do you do? Maybe no one asks you, or you don't say how much money you make, but they ask you what do you do? What's the harm in that? You can share it with the stranger. Same way, we steal that information, because that's important to us. And remember that you're the product, not the data. Data has no value. You have the value, because that data is only valuable if we shove some product up your butt so you can buy them. That's where the value comes from, not from the data itself. well, data itself, okay, data itself also can be sold as leads, so data itself is valuable to the middleman, right? Because they only make money out of selling that data. But when someone acquires that data, the only value is in the person that the data represents, not the data itself. All right, that was a long one. Alrighty, thanks again, and I shall see you guys in the next one.
If your Subaru Outback doesn't run, number of working injectors is one. Your